Welcome back from Hominem Damatorium. I'm Deadwall.
Magic Bastard.
And Elz. In the last episode, we're starting to get into the section 3 for science in 100 questions to ask an atheist. And we kind of skipped letter E because, and question 6, because, well, we're right here.
Yeah.
We're the answer.
Besides, not everything has to be directly observed.
Right.
We haven't directly observed the core of the Earth, but we know it's there.
Yeah, pretty much. We know there's stuff there because we have volcanoes.
That we can measure the gravity.
Yes. All right. So let's begin with number 7. What did Darwin say the fossil record would certainly reveal if his theory of macroevolution were true? Letter A. Isn't it true that Darwin said, in essence, that his theory of macroevolution would stand or fall on what the fossil record would show?
Again, the quote mining. No, well, first of all, they're again taking the scientist who was first coming up with the ideas, the hypotheses that would later develop into the theory of evolution. His theory of evolution is no longer our theory of evolution because we understand so much more. But yes, the fossil record, he believed that the fossil record, because they already knew of fossils. They were already studying fossils. They already understood fossils and dinosaurs. They just didn't know what the heck that meant. And he did say that yes, things would be found that would be basically a confirmation of how things went from one species to another. And even in his own lifetime, those things were found.
Not to mention that when it comes to nowadays, we have better technology, so we can actually look even smaller than when they used to.
Just in the genetic code, it is undeniable.
All right, letter B. How do you account for the fact that there are virtually no fossils showing any intermediate forms?
Again, that is a blatant lie because every fossil is an intermediate form. And even if you're just trying to go direct halfway betweens, again, we have lots of them. I believe Archaeopteryx is a winged feathered dinosaur. It's a small bipedal dinosaur with feathered wing-like arms that may or may not have been able to actually fly, with a beak-like mouth with small kind of teeth fusing into the beak. It is neither fully dinosaur, it is neither fully bird. And it's where it was found in the fossil record was exactly where we would expect to find a creature that eventually went from dinosaur to bird. In fact, I think that's one of the ones that was found during Darwin's lifetime.
Maybe. I don't know. Letter C. Isn't it true that the fossil record reveals fully formed kinds in their own right?
Oh, wait. Are they one of those people that thinks that they're going to find a creature's only going to form like half an arm? Like it's going to be like this?
Are they kind of thinking like, what? Are you talking about like a coelacanth?
But I'm like, are they thinking literally that it's just going to be a torso and then suddenly it's got like maybe a hand sticking out of just its torso and then it starts growing an arm or just a stub? No, that's not what a transitional form is. A transitional form would be, as an example, let's say a mammal that's already a mammal going back into the sea. What you would expect to see is the spaces between the fingers growing, the fingers getting longer, the arms getting shorter maybe, or fusing with the fingers, becoming more flipper-like. The back legs fusing and becoming more flipper-like and allowing it for more ease of gliding through the water. Guess what? That's exactly what we find as the transition of a mammal into both dolphins and whales. So, of course, the creatures there would have fully formed limbs, but the limbs will be a little bit more fin-like and a little bit more tail-like. And each one would be slightly more better for living in the water, and that's exactly what you see.
All right, number 8. Can you explain the laws of thermodynamics?
I don't know them all, but I do know that the one law does not mean what you think it means.
Yeah, from what I remember, that's actually like kind of like a runaround. Because I remember there's
basically,
4 main ones. There's a 0, which actually starts at 0 for the laws of dynamics.
I'm gonna say if you believe that matter and energy originated from nothing, that's a misnomer. Again, we don't know what nothing is. Neither created nor destroyed. Yes, because energy is just a high form of matter. If all that is right, eventually everything will decay into nothingness. Literally nothingness. All of matter will decay into nothing. Just back into its base constituents that create the atoms.
According to Isaac Asimov,
Asimov, and he's a fiction writer.
Another way of stating the second law is the universe is constantly becoming more disorderly. According to the second law, energy could not be eternal because the universe is running down like a clock. What you reading?
The laws of thermodynamics.
Ah.
Here, it's not the simplified ones. Those are too long to read through right now. But yeah.
That's fine.
And again, nothing states that the universe will be eternal. There's a bunch of different theories on how the universe will end, and some will believe some theories state that that's just the end. Others state, and then that's when you start getting into the multiverse theories.
Alright, well, let's go to 9. Have the laws of thermodynamics ever been proven wrong? Have they ever been proven wrong?
And if I say no, then that would also disprove your God, because then where did your God come from? And also, where did he make the materials and energies for the planet come from? Because if it cannot be created or destroyed, where did it all come from? You see, this question hurts you more than it hurts us.
Well, let's see what letter A says. How do you explain the clear contradiction between the laws of thermodynamics, which are among the most well-established laws of science, and the theory of macroevolution?
Actually, they're not. And again, they don't contradict the theory of evolution. I'm not calling it macro. They don't contradict the theory of evolution, because to have it go the way you're thinking, the Earth has to be a closed system. The Earth is not a closed system.
What is energy?
System.
Energy.
What is energy?
I'm trying to think of what the actual technical term for it is off the top of my head.
Well, let's see what letter A says. Astronomers tell us that there are 100 billion galaxies in the known universe and hundreds of billions of stars in each galaxy.
Okay.
According to the laws of thermodynamics, if energy can neither be created nor destroyed, where did all the energy in the universe come from?
Again, getting into a nonsensical question, because we can't even begin to conceptualize what nothing is. And plus, energy and matter as we know it has both a positive and negative state. But matter and energy have actually a negative, that is antimatter. And we have actually detected antimatter out there. There could potentially be whole galaxies made of antimatter, which antimatter, when it comes into contact with matter, cancels each other out completely. It just doesn't exist anymore. Which means there could potentially be as equal amount of antimatter out there as there is matter. So in a state of nothing, which is so foreign to the current universe that it just simply can't exist. It could be possible that in a nothing there's such a powerful vacuum, it causes a tear in the very function of what proto-space or time or whatever that is with nothing, because we don't know what it is. We don't even have a conceptualization for it. Causes it to expand. Like if you put a marshmallow in a vacuum container, it swells up. And thus it splits and it creates both matter and antimatter. Again, this is coming from a layman. I'm not an expert. I just watch a lot of documentaries.
And isn't the short run definition of what antimatter actually is that the electron in it has a positive as opposed to a negative charge, and the proton in the nucleus, they now have negative charges. Isn't that like the short run definition?
I think.
Because from what I remember reading, that's the short run definition. Like electron is called a positron, and for some reason they just call them antiprotons instead of by a new name.
Well, let's continue. Number 11. Why is it that the vast majority of us die between the ages of 40 and 80, no matter where we live or what we eat? Now, I will say this. That is what we have nowadays. Back in the old days of past times, before, the year 2000, even during that time.
Yeah, some of what he's claiming is that even in places that have low standards of living versus like places with higher standards of living and higher medicine are about the same. It's not exactly true. Yes, those places do have people reaching the 80s and stuff, but they also have a higher infant mortality rate and stuff like that. If people survive childhood, yes, they're more likely to live about the same rough time, but we're actually quickly raising in average lifespans here in America, and we don't even have that great of a medical system. Like, we have advanced medicine, but not everyone can afford it. It's getting to such a degree that they've actually had to float the idea of raising the retirement age because so many people are living so much later. In fact, it's theorized that the average lifespan is between 70 and 80 right now, and it's theorized that it will probably be around 100 by the time we're that age. And the reason it's kept low is because, well, bacon is delicious. And there's people out there that think that climate change and pollution is all a myth to make you get rid of your Hummer.
Whatever. Letter A. What it says is, if evolution were true, why don't we see some people who live in relatively unpolluted areas living to be 200 to 300 years old?
Because evolution wouldn't state that. Evolution wouldn't do that.
And also the body just isn't designed to go
wrong. Don't use design.
Well, not design. Yeah, that's not the best word to use for it. It's just that on how our body is made up.
In fact, evolution would select against things that live too long. Because if things live too long, you need lots and lots of generations for evolution to take place. So less generations, less evolution, less changes, and it's the most changeable species, the most adaptable species that survive, not the strongest, not the smartest, not the whatever. Because do you know what the most survivable species is and has changed the least because it doesn't need to? The water bear. I can't pronounce its scientific name.
The tiny little thing?
Yeah, it's this tiny little thing that's so small you can barely see it with the naked eye that lives in moss. It can survive in the vacuum of space. It can live for like years with being dried out and then going into a form of stasis and waking back up after it's hydrated. It can survive like in the hundreds of degrees. It can be frozen.
It's the ultimate life form.
But because its body's so simple that it's able to survive. Not complex, simple. because there's so little to go wrong. That is why the old Nokia phone was freaking invincible. It was simple. There was very few parts. You could drop it and you wouldn't shake something loose. The new smartphones, you have to have a case for it because it's so complex.
And it's kind of getting thinner and thinner. Almost paper thin, it seems.
I'm pretty sure
They're actually working on that.
Yeah. They even now have flexible freaking screens.
Do you know they actually are working on temporary tattoos that can graft to your skin that'll be able to detect impulses from your thoughts, so you'd be able to then attach it and use it like a mouse and keyboard for your computer.
Hell, there's even technology for new screens where instead of being a complete square or even almost like a rounded rectangle sometimes, that they're even going to have ovals, even specific shapes where they can even have cut out for the screen where it has like for controller or something like that, where it's may actually be like a square, but it'd be cut out in a specific way that it would be a full square like how we have now, or a rectangle for a widescreen.
Rectangle.
But anyways, let's continue on. Number 12. What do we know about cells today that Darwin did not?
A lot. I think they barely had microscopes at that time. And definitely not to the magnification that we have now.
That's for sure. Well, let's see. FYI, I believe that that life could have originated by chance, in large part because he mistakenly believed that cells were very simple life forms.
Okay. Even if that is true, it does not matter because it is not based off of. It is not the basis of how we do science now. We understand more. Our theory has adapted and changed. We have gotten rid of the bad bits and kept the correct bits and added bits that are right.
Right. That's the basic of science.
And again, they're trying to misinterpret that the current bacterium and amoebas and stuff are what the first life forms were. Again, it wasn't even simple cells that were the first life forms. It was self-replicating molecules.
Anyways, letter A. So then, was Darwin correct in his assessment of the simplicity of cells?
Yes, the early cells were very simple.
Letter B. Since Darwin was wrong about cells, which are the basic building blocks of life, how does that affect his theory of macroevolution?
First of all, he wasn't, from what I know of it, he was not wrong. 2, they are not the basic building blocks of life. Amino acids are, which are molecules. So, and again, we're not still using Darwin's theory. We're using the current theory of evolution. It's not macro. It's just evolution.
Alright, let's do number 3 real quick. Logic and mathematics are abstract principles that have been discovered rather than invented. We cannot do science, communicate, or navigate this world without them. They appear to stand outside of nature to describe and measure it. As Albert Einstein said, the most incomprehensible thing about the world is that it's comprehensible.
Oy, everything about that statement is wrong.
Just wrong?
Just wrong. They're not outside. Yes, they are abstract, but they're not outside of it. And actually, technically, you can do science without math. It's just you can't do very good science or...
Time for one more?
Yep.
Alright. What is the source of math and logic? The existence of this remarkable fine-tuned universe aside, how is it that we have these languages of reality to so elegantly describe and interact with it?
Makes no sense.
Seems like a runaround.
First of all, it's not even a fine-tuned universe. out of the four fundamental forces of the universe, such as the weak force, the strong force, the nuclear force, and gravity, do you know the universe would be absolutely no different without the weak force? One of the four fundamental forces. We don't even need it. It has no effect on the universe. It would have no effect on the universe whatsoever if it wasn't even there. Gravity could be like 10 times higher or 10 times lower and probably still have the same effect.
So that would be
Because if it was 10 times higher, everything would be 10 times smaller, more compressed. If things are 10 times lighter, then everything would be 10 times bigger. So in the end, from our perspective, it would look exactly the same.
Yeah. That would make sense.
So, no, it's not exactly fine-tuned. If it was fine-tuned, why don't we have 8 inhabitable planets in our solar system?
I don't know.
Why is the source of our life, the sun, killing us?
yeah, it
I
burps.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it burps out a good wave at us. We're screwed.
Not just that, it's radiation.
Yeah.
It is bad for us to be out in the sun too much.
Oh yeah. A little bit of
But I want to get that tan.
it grows your vegetables. It provides like vitamin D. It gives you
the
warmth and
key part's
light.
too much. But yeah.
It also gives you cancer.
Yeah. So if it was so fine-tuned, why is that ball of life and energy also killing us?
It's a double-edged sword.
Well, on that note, thank you for watching this episode of Hominem Damnatorum about the 100 questions to ask an atheist. Next time, we'll go on to question number 15 of section 3.
We're going to take a break and beat Elz.
Damn it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below what you think, and even see what you give us a answer of what you think some of these questions. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, if you think we're wrong on anything, let us know.
Have a good one, guys and gals. Boo!